It's our 2-year anniversary. Time for a review.
Hey, Guy and Roseanne here. Welcome back to Amore Van. Well, it's our 2-year anniversary. Hard to believe it's been 2 years that we've had our Embassy Dolphin S. And so it's time to give you a review of how our van is holding up. Now, last year, when we did our 1-year review, we did a deep dive into all of the systems of the van and took you through all of that. And so we don't want to repeat ourselves. So that's not what we're going to do this year. Instead, in this review, we're going to be talking about just a broad overview of how has the van held up, how have its major systems held up. And then we thought we would walk you through everything that we've changed, all the mods that we've done in the van since the day we bought it, show you what those are and why we did them. If you want to see the detailed review that we did last year that goes through each system one at a time, I'll put a link to that in the comments to this video. And if you haven't seen that, it might make sense for you to watch that video before you watch this one. First, I wanted to give you some statistics on how much we've used our van so you know that we have a good basis for this review. So here are our 2-year stats in our Embassy Dolphin S. We've traveled over 42,000 miles. We've camped in 41 states, 20 national parks, 2 national lake shores, and 5 national seashores. We've camped in 31 state parks and many Forest Service, BLM, and Corps of Engineers properties. So we've used this van heavily, so we know what we're talking about. So here goes. Overall, how has our Embassy Dolphin held up? And the answer is it's held up great. All of its major systems continue to function day in and day out just the way we had hoped. So, for example, the electrical system continues to be the star of the show. We just finished up almost 3 months on the road. I think we plugged in 2 or 3 times because we move around so frequently that the very powerful second alternator charges the engine and charges the battery, and therefore we don't really have to plug in that often. The plumbing continues to be fantastic. No leaks, no drips. Everything works just the way it's supposed to. The water purification system, the heating system, all working great. When it comes to air conditioning and ventilation, we'll cover that when we cover one of the major modifications that we've done to the van and talk to you about that a little bit. But all in all, the van has held up great. I do want to talk about the chassis a little bit, the Ford chassis. It's a great chassis and a powerful chassis, but ours was a COVID build, and that's when there was a chip shortage. And so there's been these little annoying things that don't really prevent us from driving the van, but just things that Ford hasn't quite worked out yet. Many of you with the Ford Transit have experienced the 360 camera blue screen issue. There was a rear camera recall for that. It did fix the rear camera, but we still get a gray screen on the side cameras from time to time. As I'm recording this, we have a check engine light on our Ford chassis that we're bringing in to have checked out. So hopefully that doesn't turn out to be anything major. We did have to, in our first year with the van, have the passenger airbag sensor light repaired. But I think that's been about it. Other than that, the Ford has held up very well. So we really have no complaints. So with all that said, we're going to now show you the things that we have changed in the van and talk a little bit about why we've made those changes. Okay, so now we're going to walk you through those all the mods that we've made since we bought the van and why we made them. Those of you who have watched our first year review may recognize some of these mods were designed to address issues that we talked about during that review. But first things first, Roseanne, what do you have to show us there?
So one of the first mods we did was we hung a curtain rod, and we used the same screw holes that are in the van and hung a hook right into the holes. And then we have these blackout insulated curtains. And now I have extra long blackout insulated curtains because it keeps the cool air in the wintertime out. So they are a little bit longer than you would expect them to be, but I found that it keeps the van warmer and cooler.
So why is it important to have insulation between the cab and the living area?
Because when you have the heater on, the front of the van is very cold. So that part, the cool air comes in the front of it. It's not insulated. That's a Ford part. It's not an Embassy part. So the front of the van, the cab is very cold. So this really does keep the cool air out. And then when you have the air on, it also keeps the hot air from coming into the back of the van.
So in the summer, when the sun is beating down on the front of the cab and we have the air conditioning on here, we don't want that heat back.
No, and these honestly they make a big difference.
All right, so the second mod that we want to talk about, Rosanna, is right behind you. What's that?
This is the bug wall screen. The Embassy screen that we first had with the van does not allow you to close the sliding door and keep the screen up. So we opted to get the bug wall screen. It's great. It lets a lot of air in. It can roll up. Part of it can roll up, or the whole thing can roll up if you'd like. We recommend that you have the bug wall people install. So because the guy struggled quite a bit with installing of this screen, and
how many times did I do it?
Oh, about 15.
Oh, come on.
And we're still every now and then having to push it up right here because you pull on it. But I think if it's installed by the manufacturer, and I don't remember where his company is.
South Carolina.
You're better off. Trust me.
Okay, so moving on, in last year's review, one of the things that we talked about was that we weren't really crazy about the way the passenger side bed needed to be extended. That is, the process for extending that bed as originally designed by Embassy, which involved pulling out the extension box that was under the driver's side bed and placing it at the passenger side bed. It was just a little bit of a cumbersome process, and so in between that review and now, we've done something about that. What have we done, Roseanne?
We have done what we call the Manny flip. Thank you, Manny. And we have added an extension to the bottom. Then I add the big back pillow from the driver's side couch. But first, I usually put one of the back pillows down here. We push the passenger seat up, and then I put this pillow here. I don't make this part of the bed, but usually my blanket or my comforter will cover it, and that's fine for me. I have seen other people put this pillow up at the top and slide the mattress down. It's all whatever preference you feel like making the bed. And now Embassy has adapted the Manny flip, and I think that's standard right now in all of their vans.
Okay, so just so for people who might not know, why do we call it the Manny flip?
Because Manny was the one who first made the mod and put it on a YouTube.
That's one of our fellow owners, and it's an earlier YouTube video that we did back at an Embassy meetup showing that mod. And as Roseanne has said, if you order an Embassy now, you no longer have to do this mod yourself because Embassy has adopted it as part of its design, which is one of the great things about Embassy. When customers come up with a great idea, Embassy will incorporate it into their design. Now, also, as part of doing the Manny flip, we copied another idea from Manny, right? And has to do with the location of the lagoon table mount. Why don't you explain that?
Okay, so normally the lagoon mount, there's 3 mounts along the driver's side bed, and one was on the extension box. But Manny put his lagoon mount, he moved it to the back side of the driver's side. Um, I don't know if you
Just
can.
going to
You're
zoom
gonna have
in
to see.
so we can
So,
see what Roseanne is talking about.
so it's on the side of the driver's side bed platform, I
Yeah,
guess you
so it's
should
on the
say.
side that faces the back of the driver's seat. So I moved it from the extension box into that location. And if you would, Roseanne, explain why we moved it there.
Because um, it's just out of the way, and we got a new table. Although we did use the other table, and I liked the other table honestly. Um, but this newer table makes it easier to turn and put the table into the cab. Where the other table we were able to swing it into the cab, but it's a little wider. So what we normally did was we took it down and we put the parts in the front, and then in the morning we put it back up.
So there's two different issues going on here. One has to do with the location of the mount. The location of the mount is the thing that allows that table to be pivoted into the
Into the
cab
front.
at night. And so we don't even have to take it down now. We pivot it into the cab at night, and it's out of the way for sleeping. Um, and then apart from the location of the mount, we changed the tabletop, right?
Right.
And
We got this tabletop that can fold in half and has deeper cup holders. And it's just, it's just as easy to use. It swivels just like the other table does. But for us not to have to keep moving it all the time every night and lifting it out, the mod to the back and the swivel in there makes it very easy at night to just get ready for bed.
so when it's folded, it's much smaller than the original table.
Yeah.
But when it's unfolded, it's just as big.
And we don't ever eat while we're driving with the table here, so just just
Yeah,
be aware
that
of
would be
that.
unsafe. Right?
We don't eat while we're driving with the table.
One of the biggest changes we've made to the van in the 2 years that we've owned it has to do with ventilation. When we bought our Embassy Dolphin, we had the option of going with some combination of a roof fan and roof air conditioning, or instead to preserve the very stealthy look of the van with nothing installed in the roof by going with the split air conditioning system and the side scupper vents. We chose the latter. Over time, however, we concluded that the ventilation provided by the scuppers was just not sufficient to exhaust the hot air that accumulated during the day, and we found ourselves in situations where we needed to run the air conditioning even though we shouldn't have had to because it was cool enough outside, but we couldn't get the cool air in and the hot air out. So this year we went back to Embassy and had a max air fan installed in our ceiling. This has made a huge difference, allowing us to exhaust the hot air out of the van that accumulates during the day and to draw cooler air in either through the bug wall screen when the sliding door is open or through the Greg Johnson screens in the cab when the sliding door is closed. A second modification to our cooling and ventilation system was just completed at Embassy on our actual 2 year anniversary date. If you watched our deep dive 1 year review of our van last year, then you know that one of the things we commented on at that time was that the split air conditioning system is a bit loud on the outside and has the potential to disturb one's neighbors in the campground. Embassy has been investigating solutions to that issue, and recently we returned to Embassy to have the condenser fans under our van swapped out for slightly larger fans. The result was a significant drop in decibels outside the van when the air conditioner is on. For new buyers, be aware that Embassy is investigating other potential changes to the split system, so make sure to have that discussion with Embassy if you're looking to buy now. Two other major modifications we've done to our van in the 2 years we've owned it involves storage. The more recent of those is the modification to the bathroom. As detailed in an earlier how-to video, we removed the large bathroom mirror and replaced it with a lot of great storage. In case you haven't seen that video, I'll put a link to it in the description of this video. The other major storage modifications were to the garage area. We did those shortly after buying our van, and those modifications are the subject of a series of earlier videos that I will link in the description of this video. Somewhat more recently, we augmented those changes by adding some shelving. And finally, the very first mod that we did to our van before we even brought it home was to have the 2-inch van compass rear lift performed. That was also the subject of an earlier full video, and I'll put a link to that video in the description to this video.
All right, when we sat down to do this video, we didn't really realize how many changes we'd really made to the van in the 2 years that we've had it. But it's quite a few. And all of those changes were designed over time as we used the van to make little adjustments to make it work better for us. But what hasn't changed is how much we love our Embassy Dolphin and how much we love the places it can take us. As you've seen, if you follow the channel, we've been in many, many beautiful places in this country, and there's a lot more left to see. So we're looking forward to the next 2 years in our Embassy Dolphin. So if you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, as always, give it a thumbs up. And if you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe by clicking on the Amore van icon that just popped up on your screen. We'll see you next time.
We hope you found this helpful, and we'll see you next time here at Amore Van.